could today for the council is set the table with Clay Killian, who's actually dialing in from the road right now. Clay and I had a good chat on Friday about kind of EMS services within the county and how it affects the city. The council had asked for an update from EMS or from Clay about EMS services. And so I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to do that. And I'm sorry, before I go much further, Ricky, are we streaming right now on Facebook so the public can see this? Okay, thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do without further ado is I'm going to share my screen. I've got a one-slide presentation. I would ask the council to be mindful that Mr. Killian's got a 6 p.m. engagement, so this is about a 20-minute max window for Mr. Killian to present EMS services. He's going to talk a little bit starting out the gate and then open it up for questions for the council as we go forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, share my screen, and I'll turn it over to Clay for presentation.
Thank you, Jim. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Clay, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I do appreciate letting me call the audible on you. I did have to go to North Carolina today for a funeral, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get back in time to be online with you guys, and I do appreciate the opportunity to at least talk to you by phone. And if we have any unanswered questions or we don't have an opportunity to fulfill everything you wanted out of it, I'll be glad to come back some other time and maybe do it online where you can actually see me and we can communicate a little better. I am driving down I-20 right now, so if I seem distracted, I apologize for that. I know EMS has been a hot topic for the county for some time now, and there are a number of things that have made it such a challenge. And the first and foremost is probably there's not a lot of people going into that line of work and trying to find EMTs, and particularly upper end advanced EMTs and paramedics is a challenge for all of us right now. But the county exacerbated that problem by really letting our salaries, not just for EMS, but all people. But EMS was a critical one, obviously. It's a frontline service, and it's something our council has recognized as needed to be dealt with. And we were starting paramedics at 12 to 15,000, sometimes 16,000 behind or lower than other public services around us and the private services that we compete with for labor. So we were having a very difficult time getting and keeping people. We would get them trained and they would move to another service where they could get a $10,000 or $12,000 raise off the bat. So we have corrected that to a large extent. We've got our salaries that are market competitive, but we still have a nationwide shortage, really, of upper end people, paramedics. Our service is a very young service in terms of years of experience. We've got our basic salaries have been pretty competitive, and our intermediate or advanced have been pretty competitive until the last 6 months, and then we had to bring those up as well. So from a salary point of view, council's provided us the resources to address that. And we went from 21 vacancies. We have 77 budgeted positions. We had 21 vacancies, which is almost an entire shift, to down to about 7. We bumped back up a little bit, but we're still out there competing with everybody else now. And one of the recruiting tools that we have is good equipment. Our sales tax has allowed us to purchase and keep our trucks in good shape and everything that's on them, which is all very expensive. Our equipment is probably second to none. And now we're finally able to get the people that'll help us get those staffed. I think Jim's put up the slide that shows the number of units that we have in service. This is the most recent data that I gave county council at their meeting about 2 weeks ago. I think it's the month of December and about half of January. And I forget what order they're stacked in, but I know the county's units are on the bottom. And then I think maybe Gold Cross or South Star next, then Gold Cross, and then Aiken Rescue. And if you go across from left to right, you'll see that we had a couple of days where we had 6 units in service, but most of our days are 7, 8, and sometimes 9, and had a couple of 10s. We have 10 stations scattered around the county. So we have been able to go from a low of 5 on a fairly regular basis, not 6 months ago, to averaging about 7, 8, or 9. We have actually, I think it was 8 in service today. I got the report while I was out. So I think we have about, on average, we're doing about eight trucks. Gold Cross has gotten permission to use 3 trucks, and they've had difficulty in the last 6 weeks staffing more than 2. I think they had 2 in service today, but they had 3 yesterday. So it's a challenge all of us have. South Star has been averaging 2. Aiken Rescue has gotten into the general transport business, and they have had a hard time keeping 1 open on a lot of occasions. But it's not unusual for us to have 13 to 15 trucks in service on any given day now, which is about where we need to be based on national guidelines. National guidelines, not a requirement, but a guideline that says you should have 1 truck for every 10 or 12,000 population. Ours is about 170 right now, so give or take a truck or 2, 15 would be something we would be shooting to have in service on any given day. So as long as we have good partnerships with Gold Cross and South Star and Aiken Rescue, until we have the opportunity to staff all 10 of our stations, we'll be able to cover most of that with the help of our private partners. And they've been good about with the new contract we put in place as far as their coverage. Most of the time, South Star and North Augusta are covering Aiken and North Augusta for us, and that allows us to move some of our trucks to the rural areas because South Star and Gold Cross don't want to go out there. There's not enough volume, if you will, for them to produce enough revenue to make it worth their while to go out there without some sort of a subsidy from the county. But at any rate, hopefully we're getting the coverage we need, and staffing the number of trucks that we need to try to get people service they need. You've heard a lot about status 0. There were times when status 0 means we have no truck available when a call comes in, and sometimes that gets. I don't want to make it sound like it's not important because it certainly is, but sometimes that out of service or status 0 is only for a couple of minutes. I talked about the 10 stations we've got scattered around the county. That's today, and the way the number of calls that we're running, it's almost irrelevant because most every time a call comes in, a unit is freeing up from whichever hospital they happen to be at. They're not really in their stations most of the time anyway. So they're coming from either Aiken Regional or one of the Augusta hospitals, and in some cases they're coming from a Columbia hospital if they made a run from the eastern part of the county. So the status 0s have gone way down. We have not had one in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, this last run, which is a goal we always have. We don't want to have a truck unavailable when you need help. We want to get you the help. And one of the things that's playing into that, and then I'll stop after this point and I'll take any questions, but one of the things that's playing into that is obviously COVID. We're running COVID calls, but hospitals are covered up with COVID. So sometimes when our trucks get to the emergency room, unless it's a true emergency, if it's a broken ankle or something from a softball game, our truck may have to wait, or they will take that patient off of our hands. And we can't just roll them in and say, here they are, and walk out. We have to wait till somebody takes over care for those people. And we have had as along the way to university as 7 hours. We had a truck sitting there 7 hours one day. And those times have gone up because of COVID and all the work that they're having to do in there. If it's a true emergency, chest pains, respiratory distress, they take it right away. That's not an issue. But it's those that can be triaged or having to sit there. And I think our average wait time at university right now is about 37 minutes. And it drops from there. So university is one of the highest ones as far as wait times are concerned. So that plays into whether a truck is available when somebody calls or not. We had our EMS director told me the other day we had 4 trucks at Aiken Regional for about an hour each at the same time. So that's something we can't control, and that makes it difficult for us to try to get a truck in service. But it is kind of the nature of the beast right now because of the pandemic. So I know you probably have questions, and I'll be glad to try to answer those. And if that was too much, too fast, let me know that too.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, Clay.
Sure.
All right. First one, are there any actual station of Aiken County ambulance in North Augusta?
The one station we have over there is in the Belvedere area, and what dispatch does is they always try to send the closest truck. So if a call comes in downtown North Augusta, the Gold Cross truck and I think the South Star truck are both closer to downtown than ours are. If
So
they're
y'all
in the
would call
station,
them.
if they're in the station and are available, they'll send them because they're close.
All right. Now,
But
did they, when they
go ahead, I'm sorry.
call you, I'm sorry, when they call you, does Gold Cross and South Star and the rescue automatically hear those calls?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
do you
They're
have to get in touch with them?
No. When they signed up to be in the 911 system, we vetted their trucks and their equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiken County Dispatch, which is run by the sheriff's office, knows when Gold Cross has trucks in service. So if Gold Cross's truck is the closest, they automatically call them. They've got the same radios that our guys do, and they go in service straight from the dispatch. They don't have to go to a separate third party.
All right, now let me ask you this, because a lot of times if I'm in an not me myself, but I might be somewhere in an emergency situation, if I dial 911 versus our 279-2121, because sometimes I just call the police number because I've seen
Right.
we get quicker response that way. Where is this 911 going? Is it coming to Aiken?
There are 3 public safety answering points. One is in North Augusta, one is in Aiken, and one is at the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. If you're in North Augusta, you're likely to hit the North Augusta PSAP, as it's called, the public safety answering point. And if it's an EMS emergency, there is a one-button transfer to Aiken County Dispatch so they can dispatch the rest of the ambulance. North Augusta and Aiken do not dispatch the ambulances. They just handle North Augusta and Aiken. All other calls, they'll hit that answering point, but it gets transferred to the sheriff's office for dispatch.
But which number is that, 911 or the 2121?
No, the 911. If you dial 911 and you're in the North Augusta answering point area, it'll hit that PSAP. And then if it's an EMS call or a fire call or something, well, fire in North Augusta will be dispatched by y'all, but if it's any other call besides Aiken Public Safety or North Augusta Public Safety, it'll come to the sheriff's office for dispatch. But that's just a one-button transfer.
Okay. All right. Now, it also sounds like, and I know a lot of North Augustans and people are complaining about University Hospital. One of my questions was, why do the ambulances stay? I didn't realize, but you answered it. Why they stay at the hospital so long? Because, when I drive up sometimes in the emergency room, the ambulance is there. And when I leave,
Right.
the ambulance. So it looks like we need to sort of get University Hospital on the ball a little bit. I mean, they're causing problems not only at their hospital, but throughout the county by y'all being stuck over there 6 and 7 hours, which the patients are being stuck over there for 6 and 7 hours also before they're seen.
Now that 7-hour wait was
Hello?
A couple hour wait. And University, not to throw them under the bus or pick on anybody, but they are probably the worst at getting us turned around.
Yes, they are. I'm going to throw them under the bus right now, but I love them to death and appreciate it. But something needs to be done with the emergency room. That's the worst function of the hospital right now. I'm telling you, the emergency.
We have had a number of conversations with their leadership over there. And when they heard about the 7-hour wait, they were absolutely mortified. That was not something they never expected to have happen. But and we've not had that but one time. But it's not unusual for a couple hours, depending on the situation that our folks go to. When they get there to whichever hospital they go to, they have to have they have to actually be turned over to somebody for care. Like I said, we just can't roll them in and call it a day. We have to be there until somebody takes over the care of that patient.
Okay, one more thing, then I'll let somebody else talk. I'm sorry. But I had a citizen tell me the other day he had a heart attack in September on the Greenway. Well, they could see the ambulance at the gate but the ambulance couldn't get to him because there was only one key. Now that might go through Rick or Chief Thomas, but do we not need to have the ambulance drivers a key to get into the Greenway some way that they could not? This man waited there. Thank God people were giving him CPR the whole 20 minutes, but they could see the ambulance, but couldn't get the ambulance to them. So I don't know.
Can I jump in and grab that one? The key system for the Greenway was already addressed last year, in that we have all of the PSOs within public safety now have that on their key ring, so they have access to the Greenway at all access points. I think it's hard to manage if you give every ambulance crew, especially the contract ambulance crews, keys to everything. I think, in the case of the Greenway incident, you're going to have a PSO or a fire person who's been dispatched to that site first anyway. So we'll make sure that they have access. And if Chief Thomas has a difference of opinion, and we'll work that out together with Clay. But I take your larger point, which is we certainly don't want our residents stuck on the Greenway without medical care and not have delays.
No, especially when one died. But it does seem like we as citizens, or maybe as a city, Jim, need to contact University Hospital. My brother's a physician there, and he told me we really need to call the CEO at University Hospital and complain about the emergency room because, people are having to wait, and it sounds like the ambulances are having to wait as well. So I don't know if that's something, Jim, come from the city, that maybe they look into that we can move them ambulances a little quicker.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is Eric Presnell. I got a wrong link or something, so I'm on my cell phone. I don't know if y'all can see me, but can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have to take the side of University Hospital because my wife worked there for 8 years as an ER nurse. When they are full and the whole hospital's full, that's an issue. That is not anything about the ER department. And maybe I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Everybody says call and complain, but I mean, when they're full and they're understaffed, or, you have people calling in and other hospitals are on diversion, this is more than just a hospital problem. The fact of the matter is we have 500,000 people in the Augusta area and basically 3 hospitals to serve them. So, I'm okay with, having our own ambulance service. But again, that is an issue right there. That it has nothing to do with ambulance service or anything else. I mean, we just have overcrowded hospitals. And it's not just, University. I mean, Doctors is over there by itself. So you basically have 2 downtown hospitals, University and MCG or AU, whatever they're calling it today. So, throwing them under the bus now. She has since left there. She's over at the VA. But yes, I mean, everybody goes there, but when they're full, it's not all on the ER department. Maybe call some of the higher ups, but the people that work there are good people. And honestly, we were having I was having this discussion with Kat because she did work at DR. She was a charge nurse there. And I said, what's the deal with some of the ambulance services? And, most of them are very good, but to throw a whole hospital under the bus because of something that's beyond their control, I just, that's my 2 cents worth. And I know this has nothing to do with anything, but I mean, she worked there for many years, and, that's kind of saying the ER department is bad. It's not. When you have 70, 80 patients that come in, unfortunately, what's going to happen is they have to, decide what is more critical than the other. And yes, there are going to be a lot of wait times. So I'm just saying, let's don't throw the hospitals under the bus. The EMS people do a great job. You get them there, but at the end of the day, that some of this is beyond their control.
Well, Eric, let me tell you something. One thing, you're right. I'm not throwing the hospital on the bus because I would not use no one but University. But right now they're understaffed with doctors and nurses because these are contracted out. These doctors and nurses, they might not, they're contracted. And what's happening, they're just not hiring enough people to cover the ER. So that's why I'm saying we need to let Mr. Davis know that patients just can't go sit there. And yes, right now we've got the COVID. That's another story. But this is before the COVID. People are waiting 8 to 10 hours to be seen. Now, but no, I am not throwing University on the bus. I love University Hospital, and I worked myself over there for years. And I know what it is. But like I said,
Pat, if I can jump in real quick before Clay has to get off here in a few minutes,
okay.
I wanted to ask a couple questions about the EMS service. Clay, this is Fletcher Dickert. One thing I want to do is, one, commend you and the county for working with Gold Cross and others to bring additional contract services into service in Aiken County. It looks like we have made some at your leadership and made some great strides in the county to improve EMS service over the past few months. So that's to be commended. We thank you for that. And I'm hearing good things. Making steps in the right direction. We don't have everything there yet. I think you might agree there, but making positive steps.
Absolutely.
A couple things I wanted to ask though. Or just a side comment, maybe something we could look at if we're having long wait periods at the hospitals is, could you maybe put a dedicated person at the hospital to hold the patient so you could free up the ambulance so that they could leave? And maybe that's something the hospital could do, or maybe Aiken County EMS could do, put one person there to stay with a patient. Just something to think about. But you talked about.
I don't know that we could. The hospital might be able to. If we get. We've got 15 people in class right now that'll graduate in April. We've got 3 in paramedic class in addition to those 15 at AU, and we've got 2 at Aiken Tech in paramedic class. So we've got 20 people in class right now. All of them are employed by us, but they're not able to, at least the basics, the 15 are not able to care for a patient by themselves yet. So we probably don't have the staff to do that, but if the hospitals do, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I'll have to explore that a little bit.
Okay. Well, and, something I'm hearing reports of, and, Aiken County has excellent equipment, as you have mentioned, and I've heard others say that as well. And I know we fund our equipment, through the sales tax program. Right. And you made a comment just a little while ago that you guys vet the third parties, the South Star, Gold Cross, and Aiken Rescue. Can you comment on that a little bit? Because I guess I've heard some mixed things about some of those providers and the level of, age of their equipment, and saying that maybe Aiken County's equipment's better than some of the third parties. And, I just want to make sure that North Augustans are getting, the best possible care.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. As a general rule, I think our equipment is probably a tad better than most, but I'll tell you, Gold Cross is right there with us. They keep their equipment up to date. South Star, we've had some struggles with them. We've asked them to do some things, and they've made some pretty good investments lately. But if they come into our system, they're supposed to carry the same equipment that we carry, and theoretically, I'll use it that way, are to provide the same level of service that we do. And I think for the most part they do that, and I do believe Gold Cross's equipment is probably on a par with ours for the most part. I think their trucks are a little bit older, but I think the equipment on the trucks is probably as equivalent to ours. But the bottom line is they're a private company that needs to make money, and Gold Cross subsidizes their emergency services with a tremendous general transport service. They have the transport contracts with Doctors Hospital, with Aiken Regional, with Augusta University, tons of nursing homes, and almost all of that is fully paid because it's either third-party insurance or Medicare or something that's covered. And that doesn't happen a lot in emergency services because obviously sometimes people aren't in a position to give you insurance information, and being able to get insurance information or even who the patient is so that you can bill them is difficult in an emergency situation if they're unconscious or whatever. So the collection percentage on emergency services is nowhere near what it is on the convalescent coach or the general transport. I would say general transport is probably well into the 90s, and ours runs 65 or so. And part of that is if we have a patient that's on Medicaid and our run costs us $1,200, Medicaid pays $350, I think it is, and that's all you're allowed to get. You can't go after the rest of it from the patient. So we get a lot of the folks that don't have third-party insurance. So I think Gold Cross and South Star, when they're running emergency calls, they have to subsidize it with the convalescent coach to make all the numbers work.
Right. Clay, if I can ask one last question. There's reports that, and I don't know that it's reports, I think it's actuality, Aiken Regional is supposed to be opening up an ER at Exit 5 in North Augusta. Do you got any comments on how you feel that may impact the amount of emergency care that the citizens of North Augusta get, and does that have any impact on the EMS service as well?
We talked about that some. I don't know that we know exactly how that's going to work yet. Clearly, if we've got a patient that is, is in dire straits and needs immediate care, we're probably going to take them to the closest hospital. But if it's a need of a trauma center, that's going to go to Augusta University. They're the only level 1 trauma center around. So I think we're going to have to see how that works out. With it being so close to the emergency rooms in Augusta, it's going to be interesting to see how Aiken Regional makes that work. I think that, obviously they're trying to keep folks from going across the river. That's part of the game of trying to have the business over here. But we're going to try to get the best care we can get to the whoever needs it when they need it. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on where the patient's coming from and what kind of situation they're in when we decide which place to take them to.
Hey, this is Bob Brooks. I have 2 questions for you. What is the millage that's set aside for the operation of the EMS department?
We don't have a separate millage for EMS. It's just part of our general fund. We've talked about doing that for the sheriff's office and EMS, but we have not done that yet. So don't know whether it will ultimately do that. We have fans of both sides of that, but we do not have a dedicated millage for EMS.
Okay. What would be the annual budget then?
Approximately. Wish I would have looked.
That's okay.
Something a little north of. I think it's a little north of $3.5 million.
Okay.
It's probably maybe a little bit more.
I'll ask Jim to follow up on it. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir.
Council, I think we're at a break point for Mr. Killian. I think he's got a separate engagement here at 6 p.m. So, Mr. Killian, Clay, thanks for participating today and giving us some feedback. And for the council members, if there's any questions that were unanswered in your mind, feel free to get them over to me, and I'll run those to ground with Clay and get you the follow-up on that.
And I do again appreciate you letting me do it this way. I'm sorry?
Hey, Tui. Thanks for participating with us today, Clay. I appreciate it.
No, it was absolutely my pleasure. And again, I'll be glad to do it again anytime. I am getting ready to pull into the parking lot of my next meeting, and I hope I wasn't too distracted driving down the interstate. So anything I can help you with down the road, just let me know.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Everybody take care and stay healthy.
Thanks, sir. All right. In the interest of time, I'd like to press on to item number 2, which is the items on the council agenda, if that's okay with the council. And if you look at your council agenda, I'll skip past items 1 through 4 as routine items and go to item number 5 under personnel. And that's first is the retirement and recognition of service to the city of North Augusta for Mike Chavis. Mike Chavis has been a mainstay at PRT. Mike's been a stalwart and done enormous service for the city. So, I'm disappointed we can't see him in person to be able to read this form and to see him off properly. But I want to make sure that at least he's recognized today in a city forum. So that would be the first item on number 5. The next item on number 6 is City Code Ordinance number 2021 TAC 01, which is an ordinance amending section 6.3 Code of Ordinances for the City of North Augusta related to the requirement of licensed contractors to provide a surety bond to the city as a condition of being issued a license to do business in the city. And this ordinance, deleting such section in its entirety, is final reading. So this is one we've just discussed before. And this is basically where the city had required a bond from the contractors in order to protect the city, so to speak, but not the actual homeowners, if you will, that were receiving that service from the contractor. They still have other bonding and licensing requirements here for the city. So it was the recommendation of staff and the city attorney that we rescind this requirement. And so this will be the final reading tonight for this particular item. And I'll pause for any questions from the council on this. Nothing heard. I'll move into item number 7, which is boards and commissions. The mayor's recommendation for a BZA appointment. And Mr. Mayor, I didn't know if you wanted to talk that.
Well, thank you, Jim. The big one is the Board of Zoning Appeals. You know, that's along with the Planning Commission, become one of our most important boards. Lynn Stenbridge resigned recently, and Bill Burkhalter has agreed to be a member of that board. I think probably all of you know Bill Burkhalter, and I think it's a big plus to get him involved in the city business. The other ones are fairly standard reappointments of people. The Building Codes Board of Adjustments and Appeals is, in my knowledge, not met in probably Eric's lifetime. So that's fairly straightforward. And Mr. Joe Bickley is being reappointed. He's agreed to serve again on the Advisory Commission for PRT. So I think I know we have good people on the board that I'm recommending. So if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Thank you.
Nothing heard from council. We'll move to item number 8 under finance, resolution number 2021 TAC 03, approving the annual assessment report and amendment of the assessment roll for the Ballpark Village Municipal Improvement District and confirming the collection of annual assessments therein for the 2020 and 2021 assessment year. My recommendation is to hold off on discussing this because that's actually item number 3, and Cammie's going to provide an assessment on the mid to the council. She'll go into much greater detail before this goes to you in the city council meeting. Understand also that this item is an annual requirement. Last year was the first year that we did this, and basically where you take the previous year's amortized costs as far as legal fees and the things the city absorbs, and then rolls it into the next fee structure for the mid payments along with others. So this changes a little bit every year. There are no major fundamental changes in the mid, but there are constant tweaks, if you will, on an annual basis. And Cammie's going to be able to walk the lines for you on what those changes are and from the previous year. So I will skip past number 8 unless there's any questions, because I think Cammie will do a far better job of this than I will today. I'll move to number 9 under elections, and that's ordinance number 2021 TAC 02, an ordinance to partner with the Aiken County Board of Registration and Elections to conduct a portion of the 2021 City of North Augusta Municipal General Election ordinance. That's a final reading. And I don't know if Kelly Zira has anything he'd like to weigh in with that. But ultimately, this is just for us to be able to mitigate costs and to be able to do sharing with Aiken County when it comes to running our municipal election. And I'll pause for any questions there.
Yeah, Jim, I think actually this is the first reading of that ordinance, not the final one.
Thank you, sir. I need better glasses. You're correct.
Kelly, you want to talk about it a little bit if you got anything you can help us?
Well, basically, we have the ability to contract with the county to do that, as little or as much. If we turn the entire thing over to them, the law further requires that we abolish the Municipal Election Commission, which of course, if we're not doing that with this, we are basically having them perform the services with the election that we generally have them do. I think maybe sometimes we've had a little less where we've rented equipment and not had them, maybe this is involved in handling things, but I certainly think this is a way to handle it, allow it to work a little smoother. You know, we run an election once every 2 years, and they're running them regularly, so it's certainly a lot easier for them to do it.
Kelly, is this only for the general election, not the primary, correct?
We have nothing to do with the primary.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly, quick question. I don't know if you know the exact numbers or not, but if we decided to go with nonpartisan elections, would that reduce the cost of what we're doing, or is it still we've got to put on the general, so it wouldn't change at all?
No, I think we still have the same cost with the general election. There would not be primaries, so the parties there wouldn't be parties incurring other elections. But as far as the cost to the city, I think it would still be the same because we would have to run the general election.
Thank you.
Pat, just to your comment, speaking for the North Augusta Republican Party, the party is paying the county to run the GOP's primary as well. So the North Augusta Republican Party is not running the primary. It's the county elections office who's very, has the people and manpower and equipment to do it. So the party's paying the county as well.
Okay, thank you, Fletcher.
Are there any other council questions or concerns on item 9 under elections for the first reading of this?
Jim, let me just add, the Municipal Election Commission has had a couple of meetings, and Sharon has been the facilitator for those meetings. And interestingly enough, I think at the last meeting of the Election Commission, there were a number of one reporter, I think, and a couple of citizens there, because it's a public meeting. It was advertised, and she's made sure that we've done it totally in accordance with the state FOIA laws, and announcing it and publishing the agenda. So that's, to my knowledge, is the first time it's been done that way. And so I wanted to just let you know what a good job Sharon's been doing in that regard. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, sir. I'll move to item number 10 under planning and development. This is resolution number 2021 TAC 04, accepting a deed of dedication for the streets, sanitary sewer, stormwater collection, and fire suppression systems, detention ponds, and associated easement and rights of way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for Wanda Woodlands Phase 7. And I'm sure most of you are aware that Wanda Woodlands is is a mature development. It's happened there north of I-20. We view this as a routine item. I don't know if Libby has anything you want to add to this, but this is something that's been coming along, and I think we're in a good position now to accept, and go forward with the dedication. Libby, I see your smiling face, and I'm assuming that I nailed it.
Good job.
I mean, once again, normally they're providing a bond, right? Like they normally do. Same procedure. Yes, so they would have, if they haven't finished any of their infrastructure, they've provided a performance guarantee. And if they've provided everything and they're just at the end, we have a maintenance guarantee that lasts about 2 years.
Okay.
Thanks, Libby, for bailing me out once again. Is there any other comments from the? Okay, and then I think the final item will be under citizen comments. I know we received some that I believe Sharon will read at the actual city council meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. And so that concludes item number 2, which is the city council agenda. And with your permission, we'll move forward to item number 3 under finance, which is the mid-annual assessment presentation to council. Again, this will be Cammy's presenting this today. I sent a reminder note at about 4:30 today to all the council members with the updated mid documents and spreadsheets. Those will be available to the public after this meeting. But I wanted to make sure Cammy had the opportunity to present to you, what the major changes are, from the previous year, and essentially what this really means as we go forward. So Cammy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, just making sure everyone can hear me before I move along. Okay, thank you.
Cammy, I can hear you.
Okay. As Jim mentioned, tonight we have a resolution for City Council's consideration to adopt the assessment report and amendment of the assessment roll. Ordinance 2016-23 is the city ordinance that established the Municipal Improvement District, also referred to as the MID district. And it also outlined the process for collection of an annual payment, which we also use the term mid fee. This, again, as Jim mentioned, is an annual process that City Council goes through, and this is the second year where you are adopting a report. The annual payments are for the 2020-2021 assessment year. In total, we have 16 parcels that have an annual payment amount. It will be added to their 2020 tax year bill that goes out this week for 2021. It will be labeled as a mid fee. In total, the mid fee that will be added to the bills is $777,779 and some change. We did have a few parcels that met their target. You will recall in the prior year that Parcel J, the apartments, also known as Ironwood, met their target, and they did so again this year. We've also added the Stadium Restaurant, or Southbound, met its target, as well as the residential portion of the Clubhouse, also known as A1. Something that you'll see a little bit different on the roll this year related to Parcel A1, which is the Clubhouse, is that Aiken County broke out that facility into its multiple uses. So you'll recall there was a condominium agreement because a portion of that facility is owned by the city, a portion of it is owned by the developer. And the portion that's owned by the developer, it has two components. It has a commercial component, and then it also has the residential component. So the component we're referring to that met its target this year is that residential component, the condos in the Clubhouse, and then the other components are still working towards meeting their target. The hotel, it had a little bit of a change this year. So you'll recall last year, the hotel's annual payment equaled its assessment. Its tax value did not meet its target. It had $300,000 plus mid fee added to the tax bill, which they were aware of. This year, there is a reduction of that amount of annual payment that will be added to their tax bill because their tax value has increased. And so in total, the hotel will be paying the same amount, but the way it's described on their tax bill, it's a little bit different this year, but in total, the same amount will be due. I'll walk through just a few key changes to the assessment report that you were provided a copy of. There is a new table there on page 3. It's table A. And what that table does is it shows the parcels that have an outstanding annual payment from the prior year. So as we've discussed with council before, there was a bid made by the Forfeited Land Commission for several parcels. So those parcels have not yet cleared up their outstanding annual payment. There were a few parcels that had private bidders at the tax sale. And when those bids were collected, the annual payment as well as their tax due was cleared up. Table B is another important table that we'll refer to when we go through the calculation. It's on page 4. And what that table does is describe the annual revenue requirement. And simply what that means is how much money does the city need to meet its objectives for the year. So we're going to have principal payments, we're going to have interest payments, and then we're going to have other administrative expenses such as legal. We have a mid consultant, you'll recall Thad Wilson with MuniCap, who prepares this report for us, those types of expenses in order to administer the district and the annual payment. So in total, our annual revenue requirement this year is $2.3 million. The rest of the document you'll find is very simple to what you saw last year. It walks you through the steps. So we start with step 1. If we don't meet certain things, we'll move to step 2, and then again to step 3. Last year, we moved all the way through to step 3, and we will be doing that again this year. The back of the document has the tables that you should be familiar with from the prior year. It outlines each parcel that's in the municipal district, what type of tax revenue are they generating based on their assessments for Macon County, and then how much mid fee needs to be added or annual payment is calculated in order to make up any deficits. So I'm going to try to share my screen and do a simple review of the calculation, and then you can apply that concept to any parcel in the district. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
I can't.
Tammy, you're transmitting now. You're good. You've got your screen.
Okay, thank you. It took it a few minutes to register, it looks like. So I'm going to move through to the first step, which is the calculation of the annual payment. The first thing we look at, there are a lot of words and numbers on this screen, so I'll just break it down for you. What we want to look at is that annual revenue requirement. So what does the city need to meet its obligations for the year? And that was the $2.3 million number that we were talking about on table B in the document. So if that number is greater than the annual assessment that was determined in the financial model, then we're going to have to move to step 2. And it was that case last year, same instance this year. Our annual assessment is around 1.5 million. You can see each year's annual assessment on Appendix B2 of the document that you have. And if you'll refer back to Table B, the annual revenue requirement of 2.3 is greater than 1.5, so we move to step 2. And so step 2 is going to look at what type of tax revenue are we generating based on the assessments that were provided by Aiken County. So for this year, our annual assessment per the financial model was 1.5 million, and the tax revenues we estimate to receive based on combined millage of Aiken County, the school district, and the city of North Augusta is 1.2 million. And so because that annual assessment is greater than the tax revenues we estimate to be generated, then we have to move to step 3. And step 3 is the final step of the calculation. And in summary, this step determines what amount of annual payment, if any, is due on each parcel. So we're going to look at their parcel tax revenue. And if it's greater than the annual parcel assessment, then they will have a $0 annual payment. They've met their target. No additional items will be added to their property tax bill. If their assessment is greater than the credit they receive based on estimated taxes, then the amount to make up that difference, we're going to add to each individual parcel's tax bill as a mid fee. I did 2 examples using the same parcels as in the prior year. So this is an example looking at track J, which is the Ironwood apartments. And Their estimated taxes to be collected is $646,000, and that number is greater than their annual parcel assessment per the model of $331,000. So they will have a $0 annual payment or no mid fee. So they'll just receive their regular tax bill based on their assessed values as determined by Aiken County. And then we have Tract K, which is senior living. And in this instance, the amount of taxes estimated to be generated from that parcel is $17,000. And the amount that was estimated in the financial model is $398,000. And because what we have needed as per the financial model is greater than the amount of taxes that we estimate to collect, we will add that net difference to their parcel tax bill as a mid fee. So $380,000 will be added as additional amount to be collected on the City of North Augusta tax bill. In addition to the regular taxes, we will bill based on the land assessment. So you can take this type of scenario, look at what did we anticipate to collect per the financial model, what amounts were agreed to per the master development agreement. Look at what tax is being generated based on their property assessments. And if the tax generated does not cover their target, then we will add the difference to the parcel tax bill as mid fee. Are there any questions based on that Jim or I can help answer?
Amy, thanks for the presentation. Also we'll pause here for questions from the council, but the bottom line is the properties that are generating enough tax revenue aren't hit with a mid fee, if you will, and then the parcels, largely the undeveloped parcels that do not have anything going on there, are not generating tax revenue to keep those paying, and so they get assessed a mid fee through the finance office, and so that's how we get some of these numbers associated with keeping things moving, if you will, for the city's bond payments. So they're either paying taxes, a mid fee, or a combination of taxes and mid fees to meet the minimum assessment value. And in some cases they are higher, their tax rate is higher because they're generating more income, but that's not universally true across all the properties, only some of them. So this is important as far as from a council goes, that you have this information because we know we have to set the mid structure every year. It's an annual requirement, and so we do this as a matter of course, as you all did last year, and we'd like to do again this year. And so you should expect to see this in the January-February timeframe, really of every calendar and fiscal year as we go forward on this. Really as a check and balance on our status. And also give the council and our citizens an update on where we are, reference our fee structure, and how that moves forward for the next billing cycle. Are there any questions for Cami or I on this particular topic? And if not, we'll go ahead and close out the study session, but I'll pause for any last questions on the study session. Okay, nothing heard. What I'd like to do at this point in time, Mr. Mayor, if this is okay with you, is to adjourn the study session and to move to executive session and then re-adjourn at 7 p.m. for a city council meeting for the general public.
Jim, we will need a motion and a second.
I'll read the motion right now, Sharon. Thank you. I make a motion that we go into an executive session for the purpose of a discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual agreements, arrangements, and proposed sale or purchase of property, the receipt of legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege, settlement of legal claims or the position of the public agency and other adversary situations involving the assertion against the agency of a claim. This discussion will be related to the Master Development Agreement of March 15th, 2017, related to the ballpark village. And before I ask for a second, after returning to open session, council will not take any action on any of the matters discussed in executive session. Do I have a second to this motion?
Second.
Okay, I heard Mr. Presnell. Since we're virtual, I need to take a roll call vote. Mr. Brooks,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Dickert,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole.
Yes.
I also, since I made the motion, vote yes, so it's unanimous. We will be going into executive session. We will pause here for a matter of, well, I guess we're pretty good shape, actually. Let's see. I don't see anybody on right now. Ricky, you've limit the attendance and visibility of this to council. Thank you all for the good discussion. It's always beneficial. Okay. Let me know. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the North Augusta Council meeting to order. I'd ask you to stand for the invocation and the pledge, please. Dear God, once again we come together to take serious looks at city business in this time of pandemic, which is stressing enormous percentage of our population and our city residents. We know the vaccine is becoming more prevalent. We ask quickly that those who have the opportunity to take advantage of it do us to slow the spread of this disease and get us back. We have city employees who are out every day faced with this situation and dealing with it. We ask that you keep them safe in all circumstances. It's a time of anticipation with the renewal of spring just around the corner. We're starting a new month now, February already. And we just ask that you give us comfort and solace as we face these times, and ask that you give council members the wisdom and the patience to deal with the issues as they have, with seriousness and concern for the citizens of this city. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I think I can, maybe I ought to call the roll just to make sure, since we're in a virtual session. Mr. Brooks, present.
Here.
Ms. Carpenter.
Here.
Mr. Dickert.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Mr. Presnell.
Here.
Mr. Toole.
Here.
Okay, Sharon, looks like we're all here tonight. Council, you've been provided the minutes of the study session and council meeting of January 4th. If there are no additions, corrections, they'll stand approved as provided. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 5, personnel. Tonight we have, I guess, the privilege of recognizing Mike Chavis on his retirement from the city. Mike's been, and I find this very interesting, what his history is. He's been the maintenance foreman for Parks and Rec since January 17th of 2008. And interestingly, this was a big career change for Mike. Prior to that, he was a glass blower. I've never known anybody that was a glass blower before. So, but he left that career and came to the city as a maintenance foreman. And it's only fitting that he's retiring now after 13 years of service to the city. You know, Mike is the definition of a public servant. He served without prejudice, without being asked, with humility, and without any expectation of reward. He served every day with energy and passion. And if you just wanted to get Mike Chavis to have a big smile on his face, just tell him how good the fields and the facilities at Riverview Park looked, because he was the one responsible for making that happen. Mike had a large area of responsibility in the department. He kept the athletic fields manicured, including the irrigation, mowing, edging, dragging the fields, and painting the lines. He made sure that the greenway was clear and safe for use every day. And importantly for the children, he made sure that the splash pads were ready for operation each season. He kept our rental facilities clean and ready to go. And the equipment that was used to maintain Riverview Park by his crew was maintained and repaired to keep in the highest order. And also important for everybody in our city. And it's always a pleasure to see that he was assisted with decorating the city at Christmas time. And that was so special. And another final duty, I guess, that I'll talk about is that he managed hospitality for the Nike Peach Jam tournament, which was always the highlight for this area and certainly for the city. When anybody needed anything in Parks and Rec, they called Mike, whether it was a special event, a tournament, or some project that needed something that was out of the ordinary. And he always responded without any hesitation. And he did what was necessary in every instance to make the best of whatever difficult situation he was faced. He was invested in maintaining the high standards of the city of North Augusta, and he was an excellent service to the citizens of this city. Mike, I wish I could be here standing next to you tonight to congratulate you in person. We have to deal with these tough times, but you will be missed. And it's going to be tough replacing you and the contributions you made every day to the facilities and people of North Augusta. I can only say that I hope you enjoy spending time with your family and that it goes smoothly, and you certainly earned that opportunity. So Mike, somebody showed me a Bible verse here, which relates to you, in that there's, for everything there is a season and a time for every purpose. And you were the person at this time when the city needed you. And we're so thankful that you worked for us. Thank you, Mike. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Under unfinished business, it's city code. It's ordinance number 2021-01, an ordinance amending section 6.3, the Code of Ordinances for the City of North Augusta, related to the requirement of licensed contractors to provide a surety bond to the city as a condition of being issued a license to do business in the city. This ordinance deletes such section in its entirety. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on final reading?
Moved.
I heard Ms. Carpenter. Do I have a second? Was that Eric? Was that you? I'll give you credit for the second. Thank you. We've talked about this in the past, that it really eliminates a requirement that was not serving any purpose, and particularly in terms of preventing our citizens from, or at least reducing the opportunity for them to have a bad experience. And so, you know, it's obviously an improvement if we can make our city more business friendly and still provide the right service and protection to our citizens. Are there any comments from citizens? I guess, Ms. Sharon, I have the one comment for the general. Is that correct? There were no other comments from citizens tonight?
That's correct. There are no citizen comments for the agenda items tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council on this item?
I was just going to say that I'm glad we're doing this in a fashion that it helps reduce the cost, I guess, to people doing business in that fashion by not having to provide a bond. I just want to make sure that people understand that we do want to also make sure that people do their due diligence when it comes to getting contractors and make sure they have the proper state licenses for the areas in which they're working and getting work done, because we want the consumers to be aware of that. Our requirements of having a city license is still going to have to prove a state license. So that's a little security there too. So I just want to make sure people realize that just because the bonding situation is no longer there, which we talked about, doesn't protect the consumer anyway. Just let them understand that they also still have to continue the process by the state.
Okay, thank you, David. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, call for the vote. Mr. Brooks,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Dicker,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole.
Yes.
Mayor also votes yes. It's, the ordinance passes on final reading unanimously by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, boards and commissions. Let me get to the right page here. Here they are. For the benefit of those who are watching tonight, reappointing Barry Calloway to the Building Codes Board of Adjustments and Appeals, reappointing Mr. Jim Newman and Ms. Kathy Stallworth to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and based on the resignation of Ms. Stembridge, I'm appointing Mr. William Burkhalter to that important board, and finally reappointing Mr. Joe Bickley to the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Advisory Commission, where he has served so admirably over the years. Without objection, these appointments will be made. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8. Finance. This is resolution number 2021-03, approving the annual assessment report and amendment of the assessment roll for the Ballpark Village Municipal Improvement District, and confirming the collection of annual assessments therein for the 2020 through 2021 assessment year. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Dicker, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Toole, thank you. Jim, do you want to give a brief overview for people, or you want Cammie to do it? I'll leave it to your choice. Thank you.
Cammie will probably do a more eloquent version, but I'll give the basic version of this. And Cammie, if I get any of this wrong, feel free to jump in. Bottom line for our citizens is this is the procedure with which the city reconciles the payments that are due on the parcels inside Riverside Village. And so this lays out the schedule for which the parcels owe taxes based on their assessed value, or mid payment, which is in lieu of taxes if taxes are not generated. So for example, something like the apartment buildings generate a tax base, and hence they do not get a mid requirement, but undeveloped parcels, open land, do not generate tax, and hence have a mid assessment used towards paying the bond payments for the city for Riverside Village. And so this is an annual requirement. The city takes other costs into account, such as legal fees, administrative costs, to be able to roll it into the mid structure as far as for what the developer and the owners are required to pay the city. And so you should expect that this will happen every January, February timeframe associated with every calendar and fiscal year as we go forward throughout the life of this project. Not to say that this is routine, because we're talking large dollar sums, but this is an annual requirement. Cammie, is there anything else you'd like to add on this one?
No, I think that covered it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We have no comments from citizens tonight on this. Council, do you have any comments? Okay, hearing none, call for the vote. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dicker?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The resolution is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9. It's ordinance number 2021-02. An ordinance to partner with the Aiken County Board of Registration and Elections to conduct a portion of the 2021 City of North Augusta Municipal General Election. The chair moves to adopt this ordinance on first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Kelly, do you want to give a quick overview of what we're doing and perhaps why?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Basically, this is just requesting that the County Election Commission do the portion of conducting the election on the election day, basically providing the staffing at the polling sites, providing the machines, and handling all of that. The Municipal Election Commission remains basically in charge of the overall election, but this is just allowing them, rather than just using their equipment, we're using them and their experience to physically conduct the election that day.
And they also provide training, I think, for the poll workers and things of that. And this is a requirement of state law, if I remember correctly, that we have to pass this ordinance. So.
And just to clarify for our citizens, because we are having a primary February 9th, and this will be for the general, which is April 25th. Now, Kelly, do you know the primary, we're sort of combining some polls. April 25th for this general, since Aiken County is handling it, will every poll precinct be opened?
I think so. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
But, all of that will be advertised and the poll locations for the general election when that takes place.
Okay.
Sharon, let me just verify. The general election is April 27th. Is that correct?
Yes, the general election is Tuesday, April 27th. On the advice of the Aiken County Board of Elections and Registration, the City Municipal Election Commission will be using the same polling locations that are used in the primary to avoid confusion for our citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that means there will be some polling places combined then. And we've posted that on Facebook for people to know. And I'm sorry, I said the 25th, but I meant 27th.
Okay, you made me do a quick check, Pat. I thought it was the 26th. That's why I dodged saying the date, because I wanted to make sure. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that too, so everybody knows.
That's 9 locations. 9 locations, I believe, and I believe you can go vote early if you go to the Aiken County Commission office, I believe.
Yeah, election commission office. I believe that's true.
And also, they have told us that if you cannot get out of your car to go in to vote, then they will have someone come to your car at each polling place.
And we'll make sure that the locations are all publicized ahead of time. I'm sorry.
That was correct, because my mother's in a wheelchair, and when she went to vote 2 years ago, the poll workers will bring a voting machine out to your car. You are correct on that.
Any other comments? Okay, let me call the question. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
This is the first reading, if I failed to mention that before. Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dicker?
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole.
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The ordinance passes on first read, is approved on first reading by vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, it's resolution number 2021-04, accepting a deed of dedication for the streets, sanitary sewer, stormwater collection and fire suppression systems, detention ponds, and associated easements and rights of way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for Wando Woodlands Phase 7. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Ms. Carpenter, do I have a second?
Second.
Kevin? Thank you. Any, Jim, you want to add any clarification to this?
Yes, sir. For the council and citizens, this item is in relation to the Wanda Woodlands Phase 7. And this is for 55 fee simple single family lots situated in that neighborhood. Our city engineer has inspected and made sure that they are in compliance with all the requirements therein, and that they've provided a letter of credit, irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of $73,000 to secure that as a 2-year maintenance guarantee. So the city staff as a whole, between planning and development and engineering and finance, all agree. And that's why we brought this to the council this evening for movement for us approving this request for a deed of dedication.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments from council? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. The resolution is approved unanimously by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. That concludes the action items on the agenda tonight. Item number 11 is provides an opportunity for citizens to provide comments, and council also. We did receive an email today with some comments. This is from Mr. Fred Alardi, and it reads as follows. Dear Ms. Lamar, please have read the following questions read and hopefully answered at the North Augusta City Council meeting of February 1st, 2021. Number 1, after checking the city website, the financial results of December 2020 have not been posted. A whole month has passed and there are still no results. Can someone let us know why? It appears that this information is normally posted each month by the 20th. What makes December unique? We understand that the city at year end has to prepare detailed financial reports. The reports we are looking for are similar to the ones posted each month and appear to be, quote, flash, unquote, reports. Are they available now for December, and why the delay? As is my custom, because I have a habit of misspeaking unintentionally and maybe unintelligibly at times, I will provide Mr. Alardi written responses to his questions, but just briefly say there that I have not received the reports either. End of the year, December is unique because it is end of the year with fiscal year closeout. And so I have not had the discussion with Ms. Hayes about any problems that she may having, but I anticipate that the reports will be available rather soon. And number two, as all know, the principal investor for Riverside Village is delinquent on substantial tax payments. When the city prepared the budget for 2020, these taxes were required to meet city financial obligations. How is this deficiency being alleviated, and from what accounts are funds being transferred to make up this deficiency for 2020? First of all, we made all the payments quickly, briefly, and I will provide a more detailed answer. We made all the bond payments in 2020 without transferring any money from any other accounts that the city manages. Number three, there was a closed door study session tonight on the annual assessment report for Riverside Village. Why was this a closed door meeting? Are the assessments changing from 2020? And when will this information be released? Obviously, the executive session was not about the assessments. We discussed the assessment and the mid payments in open session during study session tonight. And so that information is public and will be available on the website, I don't know, tomorrow or the day after. Number four, and this is the concluding one, as all know, there is a city primary election February 9th, 2021. Our financial results being delayed until the primary election is completed, and for what reason, if true. Thank you in advance for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Fred Alardi. I will avoid comment at this time on question number four because there's no indication on any level that would be the situation. So I will essentially provide that same information in my written response. That concludes the comments from citizens. Council, any comments tonight? Mr. Dickert.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, some of the David McGee and Pat Carpenter already commented on this. I did want to just provide some brief information for the public, being that I sit on the board of the North Augusta GOP. So just remind the citizens that the primary for the Republican Party is next Tuesday, February 9th. All the polling locations has been widely advertised, but you can also go on to the North Augusta GOP Facebook page for all the information for polling locations and hours. I know it's hot topic in the country right now based on the past general election about poll watchers and people watching the tallies. If people wish to do that, there are special forms that need to be filled out and approved by the candidate. So if someone wanted to watch the polls for David McGee would have to sign a form authorizing that they watch it. If they want to do that, they can reach out to the party and we can provide those forms. Also, just so the public knows, the official tally will be done at the community center next Tuesday night once the polls close. So the public is welcome to be there and watch as the votes are tallied and witness that as well as the public. I think we are inviting some public officials to be there as well. We would not anticipate having any results prior to probably 8 p.m. It'll be after 8. Polls closing at 7. It'll take some time to get all the results in. So if you have any other information, you can reach out to the party through the website or through Facebook, or you can contact me.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, I just have one in closing. I think last Friday was just a great day with the groundbreaking for Fire Station number 1 to get that project moving. You know, it's been a long time, I think collectively since in my 4 years here, or nearly 4 years here, that topic certainly occupied, I think, more of our time than any other. But it was an extremely good day, and I must commend the city administrator and assistant city administrator for actually having such a great weather day. It was very, very much appreciated. And again, but to both of them, you know, they've shepherded this project through from the time we said, this is where we're going to do it. You know, Rachel carried the ball for a long time, and now she and Jim have been carrying it to get to this point. From my standpoint, I did not realize, and I know there's construction guys here that do know, that building a fire station, or I guess any building, takes a lengthy period of time. And so we're looking at 2022 before it's operated. But, you know, we'll have a date publicized, and we'll keep tracking it and keep that up to date and let people know where we stand on it. But that's a great thing, and I commend those of you who are on council, as I did Friday, when you established capital project sales tax 3, and I don't know how many of you were on here. I know Pat was. I can't remember whether it was Bob, David, and Fletcher or not. But well, if you were, then all 3 of you were. Thank you for making that a high priority on CPST 3. That was so essential to the well-being of our citizens, and also to keep the city up to date. So thank you, both, all 3 of you and 4 of you, very much. Appreciate it. That's all I have. Jim, do you have anything you want to add?
No, sir.
Rachel, I'll give you an opportunity. I saw that. Sharon, anything I've overlooked? Okay, hearing nothing else, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and this meeting is adjourned.